Hey, what is up, guys? My name is the King Live, and today I wanted to walk you through what it is like for me to load into the game and actually start practicing my aim. So I've been following like this sort of like aim training regime, I guess, that I came up with myself. I think it's what it's called, regime. I don't really know. Basically, I have been using this before I play a game just to make sure that I am improving my aim over time. The best way for you to improve your aim, a lot of people will say, is just to play game after game after game and just expect it to improve. However, this isn't going to be the best for the reason that you can't simulate multiple encounters as quickly within an actual game, right? However, this isn't going to be as good because if you're just playing game after game after game, you're only going to get a maximum number of encounters, right? Whereas if you load into these aim training maps and you practice shooting these bots, you're going to get into more encounters, I guess, and you're able to kind of simulate those things for yourself so they happen more frequently. Throughout a game, so that you get like a maximum amount of 35 targets to shoot at, right? You can load into the practice range and you can shoot 35 targets within a minute. This is why generally it's going to be better to load into the Valorant practice range or to load into something like Kovaaks or Aimbotz, which is something that I know that a lot of people use. I don't personally use those myself. I do everything within the Valorant aim trainer itself, but if you do have one of these apps and you wanted to use them, I do encourage you to do so. This is definitely a good way to improve. Basically, though, what I wanted to do today is I wanted to walk you through what a normal aim training session would be like for myself. I actually spend a fair amount of time aim training. Within these last few days, I've been trying to do about an hour before I actually queue for a game, meaning that I will load into the practice range and I will shoot bots for about an hour doing all sorts of different things, just trying to prepare myself for an actual game. And at this point within playing Valorant, I feel like it's actually more important for me to be practicing this aim training than it is to actually be playing the game. Of course, playing the game, you can build up a decent amount of aim sense, but there comes a point where you just feel like your aim is the thing holding you back, which probably isn't true for a lot of people, but for myself particularly, I feel like my aim is something that is really lacking and I feel very inconsistent with it. A lot of the times it doesn't feel like I'm taking encounters that I shouldn't be taking and I'm losing them because they're bad encounters, and rather I'm taking these encounters that are actually good encounters and I'm still losing them because of a lack of aim. I think that this can be a sign that your aim is a little bit slacking and maybe that's time to load into one of these practice ranges and actually practice a little bit more. And then realistically, if you are coming from a game like League of Legends like myself, a little background on me, I'm primarily a League of Legends player. I have 1,000 hours on CS and I have 1,000 hours on PUBG, but aside from that, I played the League for pretty much 10 years. And doing these little routines every single day has definitely helped me improve my aim to a point where sometimes it's pretty decent. So let's load into the game and I'm going to show you exactly what I do. But before we do that, if you guys are interested in asking me any questions live, I do actually stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at twitch.tv. You can catch me there, as well as I am always available in Discord to answer questions, so you can definitely hop in there. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is get familiar with the practice range and figure out which sensitivity you want to play on. So the sensitivity is going to always come down to personal preference. There's no right or wrong sensitivity to use. Some players use higher sensitivity, some players use lower sensitivity. Generally, a lower sensitivity is going to be better for the reasoning that your body and your brain is going to respond to larger movements a little bit better when it comes to muscle memory. It's kind of weird for me to explain, but basically your brain is going to remember this motion a lot easier than it's going to remember this motion. So example, a 90-degree turn for me is something like this, and I can do that fairly quickly, right? Whereas a 180 is something like that. But when you're playing on such a low sensitivity that a 360 turns into something like this, then that's when you begin to run into some problems and you start to miss more shots. Beyond that, some of the difficulties that you're going to run into when you're playing on a higher sensitivity is just correction as well. You don't want your crosshair to be super shaky when you're getting ready to shoot a target. When somebody peeks an angle, you don't want to overcorrect, right? Because of the lower sensitivity, it becomes a lot easier for me to correct when I'm shooting at a target, right? So if I'm going to shoot right there and I miss, you can kind of flick up to their head a lot easier. Whereas if I'm playing on a higher sensitivity, something like this, right? And I'm trying to correct to this target, I can shoot there and then I just immediately, my crosshair's going all over the place. It's very shaky, right? Sensitivity is something, however, that you're going to have to figure out in your own time. I can't tell you what your best sensitivity is. That's just kind of something that you have to feel out. There are a couple things I will note when you're choosing your sensitivity as well. If you don't have a lot of mouse room, you're probably going to have to play on a higher sensitivity. You just have to. I'm fortunate to have a fairly large mouse pad, so I can play on a relatively low sensitivity, right? That being said, I'd actually like to lower my sensitivity a little bit more, but I'm just not capable of doing so at this point in time. When I move my mouse too far to the right, sometimes I'll end up hitting my computer, and this is like really bad and this gets in the way, right? This sensitivity is kind of at a sweet spot where I'm comfortable enough to do like a 180, but it's also not getting in the way of everything else that I have on my desk. So somebody asked me the other day, when I'm shooting these bots, do I actually do this mindlessly or do I put up more thought into what I'm doing? And honestly, the answer is a little bit of both. When I'm shooting these bots, a lot of the times, I think that it's okay to sort of get that little bit of conditioning when you're just kind of shooting these and you're just kind of practicing, getting yourself into the groove of it. I think that it takes a little bit to like warm up and just get your brain into it, right? Just being able to load in here and just like practice for a little bit, just like test the waters. Okay, shoot, get the headshots and keep going will eventually help you improve. And I don't think that all of your aim training needs to be like full focused attention on improving. That being said, you are going to want to focus on a couple different things, and you'll probably want to switch it up over time. It's kind of like if you were working out and you were only working out like one specific muscle, right? If I'm just sitting here shooting these bots, I'm only improving one aspect of my aim, right? Something even worse that a lot of people would argue too is I've kind of noticed that there's basically like just set positions that these bots will spawn. So a lot of the times the gaps are going to be pretty memorable, right? Honestly, your muscle memory is really incredible. And over time, your brain's going to kind of get used to these gaps, and you'll be able to get used to these flicks between the targets, which honestly isn't even terrible. But the situation that you're going to run to is these bots don't actually react like real players. Obviously, they're just kind of standing there. They're not really shooting at you. Oftentimes real players will be moving, and it's cool that you can actually just press F3 and you can make these bots strafe. But even then, this doesn't really simulate like a real encounter. That being said, I think that this is probably the single best way that you can actually improve your aim within Valorant itself, just by practicing on these bots. Get into the game, start shooting them in the head, get the practice of aiming for the head, recognize where your crosshair placement is as well. When you're moving your crosshair, you don't generally want it to stray from head level, right? You should feel like you're on an axis basically when you're aiming at these guys, where you can kind of like flick between it. This is just going to reduce the variance of when you try to switch between targets. Basically, there's going to be two variables whenever you try to flick between a target. There's obviously going to be your horizontal, and then there's going to be the vertical, right? And if you're focusing only on the horizontal, you're going to land a lot more shots. Whereas if you need to focus on horizontal and vertical, it can get a little bit more difficult. That's why flicks on targets above you feels a lot weirder than flicks to just left or right. If you already have your mouse at the right height horizontally, it basically just comes down to clicking at the same time that your crosshair goes over the target's head. So basically, I'll just sit here doing this for a while until I start to feel a little bit more comfortable. You'll definitely notice at the start, you'll be like, okay, well, I'm missing a lot of shots. This is kind of rough. But as you kind of get into the groove of it, you'll start hitting a little bit more. One of the big things that I want people to keep note of right here is you want to kind of make sure that you have a good posture when you do this as well. I was actually just slouching a minute ago and I had to remind myself, you want to make sure that your back is straight and your feet are flat on the floor. Now, if you're anything like me, you probably slouch quite a bit when you play games. I never really focus too much on my posture, but little things like this are actually going to affect your aim quite a bit. This is a game that's focused entirely on accuracy. And with how accurate that you have to be able to take any advantage that you're capable of getting. Unfortunately, if you don't generally sit with very straight posture, then your back is going to hurt a little bit when you do this. It'll get kind of exhausting, but over time, you'll build up, I guess, a core. I don't really know exactly, but you'll feel a little bit better. I've been practicing this for like maybe a week and a half now, and it's starting to feel a little bit better. It's going away a little bit. Basically, the whole point of like sitting up straight though and having a good posture is that it's a very easy position to like recreate, and the blood flow is going to be a little bit better within your body. If I always sit the same way when I play, it's going to be a lot better for my muscle memory to be like, okay, this is where I have to go, right? Basically, beyond focusing on what is like a 90-degree turn for your arm, you also have to worry about, okay, well, am I sitting the same way that I normally sit? Is it going to feel any different when I flick? And the answer is yes if you're not sitting the same way every time, right? This is why you want to be able to recreate that stance generally. Also, your mom's been yelling at you for years to sit up straight, so you should probably just listen to her, honestly. Beyond that, after I'm feeling a little bit comfortable, there's a lot of different things that I'll do with these bots, right? If you're missing a lot, I like to slow myself down and make sure that I'm landing those headshots and make sure that I'm getting those taps. Basically, the reason for this is I don't want to be conditioning my brain to think that it's okay to miss, right? Every time you get that headshot, you get that little crisp audio sound that's like, hey, that was a good thing. And I think that you're kind of conditioning your brain to be like, okay, it's okay to miss every single time that you miss, and you don't really compensate for it, right? You want to be taking your time and make sure that when you're practicing right. Beyond that, sometimes I'll pick out like 3 bots and I'll just try to flick between them quickly. And then if you want to get a little bit more advanced, sometimes I'll actually pick out a set of bots. I'll kind of like visualize this image, and I'll look at them, I'll close my eyes, and I'll try to flick between them. So the reason that I do this, once again, is for muscle memory, right? I was able to visualize where they were, and then I did what felt right with my hand to shoot these guys. Now, I don't really have like any evidence that my way of improving is the best way to improve. However, I have noticed that as a League of Legends player primarily, my skill in this game has increased like quite a bit. Like I'm feeling pretty confident in my aim recently. Everybody has their off aim days, of course, but I think that I definitely noticed that after doing these routines, my aim has gone up an incredible amount. Now, that being said, none of this is actually teaching you how to like spray or anything like that. This is specifically talking about one-taps. So if you're practicing with a Vandal or something like that, when you're taking it into game, I've noticed a problem that I have is, although I practice one-taps and I practiced aiming for the head, oftentimes I'll just try to spray people down, right? I'll just try to go for these crazy sprays on targets after I miss the first shot on them, and I'll try to like spray them down. And although my sprays aren't terrible, it seems very counterproductive that a lot of the times I'll be practicing these one-taps and practicing just hitting the target in the head. And then I'll go back into this mode where I just kind of spray and pray, and it doesn't really work out for me. These are the points in time where I need to remind myself in game, slow yourself down, Just aim for the head and get those headshots. It only takes one bullet in this game to kill somebody. Focus on your crosshair placement and just go for those kills. Beyond that, if you did want to work on your sprays, there are a couple ways that I can give you advice for that. If you don't know anything about spray patterns in this game, you'll notice it doesn't actually go exactly where my crosshair is, so you need to learn to adjust to this, right? So generally how you'll adjust for the Vandal spray is you'll pull down to the left and then to the right and then back to the left, right? And all those bullets weren't perfectly landing in the center there, but I think it's very important to actually practice this so you can at least get them to the same level. A lot of the times people won't be very used to pulling down immediately or as much as they need to. And you'll see sprays that go like this. Now, clearly that's going to be going straight over the guy's head. That's not what you want. You're going to want to pull down and just try to land all of your bullets on that guy. So you can practice this on this guy, but I think even one of the better ways to practice it is, so this will get you used to doing little burst fires on these guys, which is what you'll use more frequently when you're at lower ranks. You don't want to be doing full sprays generally. But I think that works even better on these guys is you can actually practice transfers on them. So what is a transfer? So basically what a transfer is taking your spray from one target and switching to another target, right? This is more of an advanced tactic and you probably won't be using this as frequently, but this is something that you might want to practice. So basically on these bots, what you'll do is you just try to practice your transfers and switch between the guys. It's a lot easier if you're going to be aiming for the larger targets, but if you wanted to do it on the ones in the back, you can do that as well. Also, if you wanted to limit your magazine size so you can be more familiar with how much ammo you're going to have, you can turn off infinite ammo over here. This might be useful information to you as well. When the top of your crosshair actually disappears, that's when your spray has gone random. Basically, it's not entirely random, but it's like pretty random. It's still going to be kind of working in the same fashion as before, but you're going to have to adjust to it a little bit more on the fly, right? Basically, you'll notice that either your gun will sway either to the right or to the left, and you can kind of adjust based off of that. Obviously, I don't recommend just staring at your gun, but kind of seeing in your peripherals and getting used to that, it helps a little bit. But basically, aside from that, I don't really do anything crazy. I'll just load into this, and I'll do this for about an hour, just shooting these bots, right? I found a really relaxing way that I've been doing it is I'll put on, like, an album of an artist that I wanted to listen to that I haven't really listened to. I do this about once a day, right? So one day it was Billie Eilish. The next day I threw on, like, Brockhampton. Just, like, artists that I've listened to maybe, like, 1 or 2 songs of them, and I thought they were pretty cool, and then maybe I wanted to give them a further listen. Basically, most albums are around, like, 45 minutes to an hour, so this will give you, like, a fair amount of time aim training, which will really help your play. And it lets you intertwine like other hobbies or interests to help you out. I don't know, maybe you're interested in audiobooks or something. Maybe you want to watch a movie while you're doing this. Maybe you want to listen to like my YouTube videos while you do this. That's an option. There's a lot of different things that you could fill the time with, but if you are not doing this to improve, then I wouldn't get too frustrated with yourself when you don't improve. Listen, you don't need to follow my aim training regime. This is what I do. You don't need to do the exact same thing that I do. If you wanted to do Aimbotz, go for it. If you wanted to do Kovaaks, go for it. If you wanted to play CSGO Deathmatch, go for it. But if you are not doing anything to improve and you are complaining about not improving, then you are the problem. That is all I gotta say today, though. If you guys did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel. We do a lot of different stuff on this channel. We talk about Omen. We post Omen gameplay. We talk about VOD reviews. We do memes. We have a Discord full of really awesome people, so if you guys are looking to come and hang out, come and chill with us, have some conversations, post some memes, post some clips. As well as we stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at twitch.tv/thekingLive, so you can come and check us out there. We go live at 8 p.m. Central. Aside from that, though, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in my next video.